I just wrote the last article I wrote for the Jewish Observer was an article all about how German Jewry between the two world wars helped to save Lithuanian Jewry. In other words, the Torah Derech Eretz school of Germany helped to save Lithuania, which had been based on Torah only. Now, when people see that, a lot of people, that was an amazing revelation to them, because that's not what's usual. How they grew up. They grew up assuming that the German approach was for the the weaker Jews, and the Lithuanian approach was for the more staunch and strong Jews. And here they see that, in fact, it was the other way. The Lithuanian approach had failed, and they had to make schools which were similar to the German schools. So that brings people to understanding that Torah Derech Eretz is not a b'diavad or something for the not so frum, but rather is an integral part of Jewish society if you want to have a successful Jewish society.
So why don't you write a piece about how...
Who's going to publish that? New York Times not going to publish that.
Okay, that's true.
They do publish interesting things in the New York Times.
They're not going to publish this.
Can I ask a question now?
One more thing.
Right,
Can you explain how...
Yeah.
After I have one more.
Yeah. How does Rabbi Yosef give a psak saying that a single girl, like above 12, I guess, is not allowed to make a blessing unless her hair is covered, and yet the modern Orthodox can just say, and my married wife doesn't need to cover her hair at all, not even like anything.
That's,
What does Avad Yosef have to do with modern Orthodox?
absurd!
The greatest authority of our time says, hey,
Who said he's the greatest authority of our times? He's the greatest Sephardi authority for our times. What do you know?
oh, he's by far the number
You
one.
bring us
In our days and age,
They don't follow like
What are you talking about?
Rabbi, isn't
But
the-
I don't hold...
the way you should ask the question is that no reputable posek has ever said that women are allowed to go with their head, certainly married women are allowed to go with their head
I
uncovered.
just want to show that the stringency that even the
Yeah, I understand. But then they're
not
going
very
to tell you Rabbi Yosef is a Sephardi. Just say no reputable posek.
Is there anybody to refute anything that he says nowadays? Is there anybody who will disagree with what he says?
Rabbi Ovadia?
Yeah.
Yeah, but so what?
Of a statue.
Not on
I'm
this-
saying something
what?
like of a statue.
Obviously, most girls don't cover their hair to make brachas over the age of 12.
Yeah.
But that's not, I'm sure that it's not based on anything. They just don't do it because they want to.
No.
What's it based on?
It never says that they have to. It's his chiddush.
I'm almost sure that in every single books of brachas that they have to do that.
What are you talking about?
Rabbi, I don't know why you like... Rabbi, I don't know why you think Sephardim are so
If there's
superior
nothing
to
to support
Ashkenazim.
Ashkenazi.
What?
When you have Das Torah, and he
It's not true
busts
that
unless you have somebody else who's a Das Torah
Ashkenazim.
on the same level, disagrees with
In certain
him.
ways they are.
But we don't have anybody on the same level of Das Torah.
Anything you want to say doesn't work. That's one simple fact.
What?
Anything positive thing you want to say about Sephardim doesn't work. Because the one simple fact, we've been staying from for the last 2 millennia, and they haven't been from.
What are you talking about?
General public.
Sephardim? Of course they've been.
500 years ago, they were.
Yeah, of course they were. No! Chas v'shalom. Stop Lashon Hara. They weren't well educated, but they were frugal.
Well, they didn't know what they're doing.
Okay, but whatever they were told to do, they did.
But they didn't know anything. We knew.
You're talking about in terms of intellectual acumen. I'm not talking about their intellectual acumen.
Even in terms of observance.
No, not true. They're always very, very observant.
No one says that. There's a lot of...
Yeah.
Alright, so what do they get there?
You check it out.
What do they get there? But the evidence source saying you're allowed to knock out your hair.
You know the famous Moshe of the Duma Magid. I've said it over many times. The Duma Magid was once walking down the street, and he saw target after target with arrows shot through the bullseye. Right. So first you shoot the arrow, and then you draw the target around it. Right. The same thing is true in many areas in halacha. First, in a society which has a certain mode of behavior, so first they shoot the arrow, and then they find the justification. In some cases, they don't even bother. Where they know they won't find justification, they just don't look for it.
One more thing.
A lot of halacha, it's a frightening thing, but if you know, a lot of the level of halachic observance of all of us is dictated by the society in which we live. Many of us would be in a slightly different society. What? No, I'm talking about in terms of level of religious observance. Would not keep halacha to the same extent.
Or
would keep it more, for that matter.
What would we do differently?
Where?
If we were in a different place, like say Bnei Brak as compared to here.
In Bnei Brak?
As compared to here, yeah, sure.
In Bnei Brak, I'm not sure.
Halachically, not socially.
I'm not sure exactly. It'd probably be more meticulous in going to minyan, because everybody goes to some minyan. They're shtiblach. Although here much we have them too. What else would you do in Bnei Brak? There's a lot more. You would only eat certain hechsherim. I'm not saying it's. You would be more nizar. You wouldn't read newspapers. You wouldn't.
Is that a halachic issue? Reading a newspaper, I thought it was more of a social issue.
In and of itself, perhaps not. But I'm sorry. Objectively, perhaps not. But subjectively, certainly it is. When you get a secular newspaper, there's all sorts of stuff in there. I'm not saying I get the Wall Street Journal, but I stopped getting the New York Times because it was inappropriate to bring it into my house. So you won't find that in Bnei Brak. There are various different other things. Also, in restaurants in Bnei Brak, the men and women all sit separate, like in Rockland Kosher here.
Even if you're like a husband and wife,
yes,
you can't have like a date.
No.
See, you
gotta leave Bnei Brak.
So that sounds to me like it's social. There's nothing preventing a man and a woman from a husband and wife meeting together in public.
No.
There's no halacha against that.
But we're afraid that if people see this husband and wife together, they'll have thoughts about it. Look, I'm not. Let me get this straight. Let's get this straight. I don't live in Bnei Brak. Okay. I couldn't live in Bnei Brak. Okay? But I'm just telling you that there are different. You asked me about Bnei Brak, and I'm telling you some examples of how they would keep things differently.
Socially,
in Shemitah, they would have certain different. Yerushalayim, Bnei Brak have different standards in Shemitah, right? Okay. In Trumas and Meisers, there'll be issues, right? So there are all sorts of issues which are not something which is apparent to the outsider, but you go to for between here and Teaneck, you'll see there are very significant differences, right? And you go conversely between here and New Square, you'll probably also see significant differences.
I would see between here, New Square, and here in Teaneck, I'd probably see more social differences, not halachic differences. But from between here and Upper West Side, I would see a lot of. Upper West Side is the Monotheist area. I'd probably see a lot of halachic differences. It's a difference of social to social and social to halacha. It's the world apart. I don't understand how they're comparable. The social life may be different between here and New Square, but they're no firmer than we are because they don't do anything we don't. That's
they have a woman walking on the other side of the
street. That's not halachic. That's not halachic. It doesn't say social.
That's social.
That's social. I'm talking about halacha. To practical halacha today, there's no difference between here and New Square. I can't think of a single one.
Not still halacha?
So the only difference is between modern Orthodox and the rest of Judaism.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it's only social. I mean, it's hard to say, but it's a more, let's put it this way, it's a more rigorous lifestyle. Okay? That's social, I grant you, but it's rigorous. There's more rigorous and less rigorous. Perhaps halachic, more halachic and less halachic was inappropriate. I would draw that. But rigorous and less rigorous.
Statistically speaking, where has there been more of an over like?
I don't know the statistics.
More in Orthodox or in Orthodox?
I know the statistics.
What would you think of it?
I don't want to take a guess.
I have a book on this. If you
I don't want to take a guess. Certainly when modern Orthodox kids go off to a secular college, many of them fall off. That's a very dangerous place. And that happens a lot. Non-Orthodox kids, a lot of them go to secular colleges. It's sad. Because of secular colleges, or because they have no foundation? Once they're there, they just completely mix in with everybody else. What's the difference?
That's why they were brought up in the first place.
As somebody who's let's say already Orthodox, right? You could tell a girl who's already Orthodox who wears like a skirt down below and she like up to here. So her mingling is not going to be as much as somebody who's more Orthodox and brought up to mingle with the crowd. Right, that's true. And so this is an Orthodox girl. No, they go to college also, but this one, because of her less socialization with other crowd, there is less chance of her going over there than with the other people who go to Hillel clubs and all sorts of parties that they have. Much higher chance of going over there. That's all true. Yes. Okay, should we learn some Navi?
I just have I'm sorry.
I want to find an accent.
His question
guy.
first.
Yes.
So what's the repercussions of the Jewish world not having the Jewish Observer anymore?
I don't know. There's a big vacuum for something in between a journal which is obscure and a newspaper. There's a big gulf now between those two.
So why do you start a new newspaper?
Money. One has the money to do these things. That's why the Jewish Observer closed
Why
down.
don't you have?
What?
You have a lot of Gvir and Muncie. It's a good opportunity.
You know any of them personally?
He is very
I
good.
don't.
I like that one.
Yeah.
So how's the
What? Did you have follow-up?
So let's say now let's say the Jewish Observer is going to begin, which was the only place really where people could, in a kosher way, put down certain things that other people might see as controversial, or basically, going like, oh my God, he's lifting up the carpet. So who's going to do it now? Rav Avram Shor is the only one that's left?
Rav Avram Shor. How does Rav Avram Shor do it?
Because he's the only one that comes out saying this is Goyesha, this is Asur.
All I know is that he's against Lipa. What else?
Well,
He's against comedy shows.
Against what?
Certain comedy shows.
Okay, it's only about entertainment. It's not about anything else.
And you
I don't know, Rabbi.
As far as I know, Rabbi Shor has not come out, spoke about child abuse, about kids at risk, about shidduch controversies, about Jews being dishonest in business.
not yet.
Right.
There's been a.
And if he makes a speech about it, and it's not written down somewhere, how many people are going to get access to it?
if he makes it his own show, no one's going to hear besides the people who show.
Why don't you put this on What's His Nice?
People hear things more around than more. The more you
Seriously.
describe, more people
It's a
possibly
very,
hear
very,
him
very
than
popular
read the
issue.
Jewish
Website.
Observer.
Sorry?
It's new.
It sounds like what you're saying, that the reason why Jewish Observer is basically going out of business because there's not enough readers. Because people are not interested in.
Fine.
I don't know how many people. I listen to Rav Avram Shor, but I don't know how many other people listen to him. But it seems like we might have the same amount of people listening to Rav Avram Shor and read the Jewish Observer.
Listening to a speech is not the same thing as having something in print.
Why?
If something is in print, it is a point of reference. If something is on tape, it's not a point of reference. It's first of all, it's not the. There's a famous statement. They say it's from the Prima Gunnim, but I don't know. It might be from some other source. Not everything one thinks, one says. Not everything one says, one writes. And not everything one writes, one prints. So why is that? Because printing puts something into a more official form than just writing. And writing more than just speaking. Something which is the printed word has a greater power than something which is just stated.
Wait.
By the way, this is even true today in the age of computers. Something which is on a computer screen, I don't think has as much lasting significance as something which is actually in a book.
So you think book publishing is still do you think book publishing still has any future left?
Yes.
Of course.
Really?
Yes.
Wait.
Absolutely.
I want to.
A lot of people don't hold, but I do. Yeah, certainly in Judaism, for sure, because of Shabbos. Yeah.
Why don't you? There was
Besides
a
that,
book.
nobody likes to read an ebook.
There was a
Very
book.
much.
Yeah, I don't. People carry around these Kindles. I don't see people actually reading Kindles.
Wait,
Maybe they are.
Wait, there was a book that was controversial. It was about shidduchim, and you know what? It made it big in the yeshiva world. It was huge. Everyone was buying it. It was the biggest book out there.
Of course, Shidduchim is a hot topic.
What book is this?
What book is this?
It was Dr. Solomon's book on shidduchim.
Okay, well, so, and therefore what?
Everyone was buying that book.
What?
Okay,
It was
so,
controversial.
It was. He had his opinions on shidduchim.
okay, that's very good. So,
So why don't
So you have to
you
write a book.
write a book,
Word out.
and it might be one of the. You could say.
I have written books.
But they're in Hebrew.
They don't sell.
Yes.
Listen, even a book like the Contemporary Eruv, which is a reasonably controversial topic.
It is?
Yeah,
Is it in English?
it's in English.
Oh.
So how many copies is it sold? I don't know actually, because Feldheim doesn't tell me. But it's certainly not more than 3,000 or 4,000 since the beginning.
So why does
The Jewish Observer, even in these declining in subscription days, had a subscription of 12,000. And not only that, people used to pass it to each other to read. because they're interesting articles which people give to each other,
10 people in the
and so on and so forth, and a lot of people in the family. So with a book, you cannot have the same influence you have with a magazine.
So how
What
does
about blog,
book
right?
make? This book had.
Blogs have killed. I think blogs are the. I have a blog, right? But I think blogs have been terribly destructive to everything, to all thought, because what everybody does with a blog, including myself, is just spout.
So how does this book make it so big?
Which book?
This book on.
I doubt it sold more than 4,000 copies. What makes you think it sold more than that?
Because it was all over the place.
It was everywhere you were. That's not all over the place.
Yeah.
People were buying out. I saw.
Buying out in Eichler's, let's say they had 30 of them. And people bought out those 30 books.
Let's say in a month.
So that's not much, if you think about it. And it took us at another 15 or 20. But Lishkas had none of them. That I guarantee you.
I saw some controversial things
In
in.
Lishkas?
Not Lishkas. What's that other place?
Oh, yeah, Tubias.
It sells everything.
Yeah.
There was a. I don't remember where. It was one of the Hasidic places.
Oh, yeah?
Some very controversial places.
Okay.
Wait,
No, the only way you could possibly change
I can't
modern
remember
orthodoxy
what it
from
was.
what it is now is by simply labeling it another form of conservatism.
conservatives.
What is it?
Judaism.
It's not possible to change modern Orthodoxy because it's not a thinking movement.
Yes, that's the point.
Right.
You use an emotional way.
That's why I like working with. I don't even like these terms, but these terms have become so fashionable. I like working with Haredi Jews more because they think. They think. Especially you see today in the kids coming up through the ranks in modern Orthodox, they're plugged into their iPods, their laptops, their whatever else they're texting, and the Haredim are not quite there yet.
Robert Watson does a good job.
But Rabbi, if you label the entirety of modern Orthodoxy as another conservative or
I don't want to do that. They're nice guys.
well, then they'll
They're nice guys. Most of them are just ignorant. It's not the pshat that they're malicious. They deliberately don't go out of the bar.
Rabbi, the more lazy you are about this, and the more you don't think about it, the more malicious it actually is, because it just continues.
Yes, but labeling them as bad people is not a good way to go about it.
Well, how
You have to have rachmanis on them.
how are you going to fix them if you ever?
I don't know. I'm not sure I can fix them. But in the meantime, you have to have rachmanis on them.
How? That's not honest.
What way it's not rachmanis?
If somebody's killing themselves slowly by taking drugs or whatever, Rahmanas, he's a drug addict. No, you take it away.
Fine, but you don't start vilifying. You don't start vilifying him and making him angry.
Well, he's not going to get the message if you just tell him, "Oh, you're a drug addict."
Oh, so you antagonize them. Smart.
Yeah,
That helps.
yeah.
You have to
So,
show him.
how's it that Solomon Schechter's wife could walk around without? I mean, if he came out against women with
You
uncovered.
mean Rabbi Soloveitchik?
Oh yeah, go right salvation. How could how could this have happened?
In Lithuania, it was a plague. In Lithuania, many women, even wives of Rosh Yeshiva, did not cover their hair.
What's the pshat?
They say, I don't know if it's true, but they say they were Moshe Feinstein's wife. Only covered her hair when she came to America. We don't understand what it was
Most
like.
people in America
Social
cover their hair. And
What?
How is their social life acceptance? How can the social
Which
the social
There was the Rabbanim felt powerless to protest.
What changed?
What?
What changed? What triggered the hair cover, the wig movement?
Several things. First of all, the primary thing is the increase in Jewish education for women. In Lithuania, most of the girls did not get Jewish education.
So
If they
it's easier
did, they got mostly secular Hebrew education, not a Beis Yaakov type education. So therefore, they had no interest in pursuing these old, antiquated ways. Okay, once there became Beis Yaakovs, so then actually became more understood that this is what we do because this is what halacha requires. Also, when they came to America, they came into contact with the Hungarians, and the Hungarians are very makpid on covering hair. So therefore that also had an influence. Okay, so those are the primary reasons why the situation is better in America than it was in Europe.
Did wig come out because there's a shape on it, there's a wig, right?
Maybe.
So did the wig come out is because
What's the difference?
the one, what do you call the cloth covering?
Tichel.
The tichel, is that what you call it?
Yeah.
The Sephardim use? So did the wigs come out as a result of, well, we can't force them to cover their hair?
No.
They were giving them a
So no, there are wigs for many, many years. Wigs go back to the time of the Gemara. They already had wigs.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't look so nice, but they had wigs. Yeah. You look,
It wasn't leniency because
you look at pictures of frum women and really frum women who did cover their hair in the 1800s. They also had these mops on their head.
I think they cover their hair.
No. But the point, there is an interesting point though, which should be made, which is that until the early 1900s, perhaps the late 1800s, married women always covered their hair, not just Jewish women,
Yeah.
non-Jewish women too, right? Unmarried girls would not wear hats necessarily, and married women would always go out with a hair covering, with a bonnet, with a shawl, whatever it was. So, as long as that was prevalent in the non-Jewish world, there wasn't such an Nisayon in the Jewish world. The moment in the late 1800s they stopped doing that, it became a terrible Nisayon in the Jewish world as well, and many people were not able to be Nisayon. Okay?
For health reasons.
I'm sorry?
Health.
For health reasons.
They didn't have
Lice.
They didn't have the swine.
Having a wig or not having a wig will not change the life situation.
They didn't have the swine flu in those days.
Yeah. So, I guess, are there any other questions for tonight? So tomorrow night we're going to start with Navi.
Yeah,
But wait, I have
I can't say very long. Give you 5 more minutes.
I have a
Last night I got in trouble.
I have my last question.
Yeah.
I've seen today, liberal, conservative views today. What is the Torah? Is the Torah more liberal? Is it more conservative?
Neither.
Neither? Are there certain views that the Torah can take
Neither.
liberal?
What? The Torah is flexible. However, that being said, the Torah does actually, the Torah promotes an agrarian society, meaning an agriculture-based society, not an industrial society. And the Torah also promotes the Torah is neither pro-communism nor pro-capitalism. It's pro and modified socialism.
I guess like
just a
United
question on
States.
that.
What?
I guess like the United States.
Something like the United States, perhaps more like the European model, but yes, it's a modified socialism. It's a moderate socialism. That's what Trumas and Mice is all about.
So wait, Truma Meiser, everything except Shkalim, though, I thought was like, was it legally enforced or was it just socially enforced?
No, legally
Was
enforced.
it legally enforced?
Yeah.
Okay. And the second question I have is, what about that mission that says about the reason why they don't have like the holidays back to back in a certain, they don't change the certain days in a certain way? I think it was the Rosh Hashanah that says this. Was because they would put too much of a strain on like the storekeepers. So you know which mission I'm talking about, right? Thinking about the preparation of food.
Tanesim,
Right.
not holidays.
So you
fasts.
say that was the way it's said it, that it's kind of a proof towards the Torah understanding that there's actually independently owned businesses that are not government run.
Of course, the Torah understands that. Yes. Yeah. But first of all, of course, the Torah understands that they're business of that side.
Socialism.
Yeah. It's, we're not. And obviously, the Torah principles, which were meant for an agricultural society, are flexible enough to be applied also to our contemporary society. But the idea, generally speaking, was that people should be farmers because farmers have a lot of time to contemplate existence, and that people should be concerned with their fellow man, and therefore they should have all these mitzvahs ben al mechaveru.
And it was not a mission plan last month ago. It speaks about a plant man and something.
Yeah. Okay. Let's not talk about that tonight.
Man.